Thank you, everyone, for joining today. Today, we're going to have a special podcast episode focused on understanding security controls for cyber insurance. And to do that, we brought on some cyber insurance experts. We have Joe Earl from C3 Insurance. He'll be talking about the process of getting insurance as he is an insurance broker. And then we have Abe Gibson that is over from an insurance company talking about the things that they look for as they're underwriting and preparing organizations to get cyber insurance. So the approach we're kind of going to be taking today is having just a casual conversation about the 5 or 6 controls that really help organizations, small, large, become more resilient. And especially if you are using a managed security service provider or a managed service provider, these should be the types of controls that they're providing for you so that you can get the best insurance rate possible. So with that, let me first introduce Joe. He's going to talk a little bit about himself, then we'll bring on Abe, and then we'll just have this back and forth conversation. Joe?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Chris. I really appreciate being on the podcast. I know you guys cover a lot of different topics in cybersecurity, so I'm honored to be here. I first got into cyber insurance when I saw some clients get hacked that didn't have coverage. It's kind of like your worst day ever. Like, if you ever get a text when you overdraft your bank account, and you're like, oh crap, it's like that times 10. And what happened to my client in this one instance is that he got hacked through a remote desktop that didn't have MFA, and they exfiltrated his files and, encrypted everything and asked for, I think it was 250,000 and to get all his stuff back. And he didn't have anyone to call. He didn't know anybody. He thought he could just like figure it out himself. He started, negotiating. He actually did a good job negotiating and got it down to 115,000. But then he had no way to pay him. So he opened up a Coinbase account, right? And he put 115,000 in there. And then Coinbase locked his account because you have to wait 75 days to move that money. So he ends up selling the Bitcoin. He loses like 10% because, Bitcoin goes up and down 10% a day. And then he's got his money stuck in there because he can't take his money back out. So he has to like LinkedIn message everyone from Coinbase trying to get that money out. And finally, I see him at a trucking convention and he's like, I need some help. And I was able to call one of my contacts who knew somebody else so it was at Cyber Crucible, who knew someone at SRM, who knew someone at Mid Digital, who actually handled the payment. So he was able to pay and get his stuff back. But like you can see all these different steps that you need to have that a cyber insurance company brings to the table with the money and the response team and everybody are already together in that incident response. So I saw kind of like how that worked, and I saw how I've gotten other companies covered, and I was kind of hooked on cyber and just helping people through that worst day ever. So that's that's me. That's why I'm trying to make an impact in cyber. Go ahead, Abe.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hey, my name's
So,
Abe.
yeah.
Yeah. My name's Abe. I'm a wholesale broker. So I work with, Joe and, other really smart cyber insurance agents to put together, really cool cyber insurance programs for their clients. I have been in cyber for pretty much my entire career, and, it's evolved and changed a lot, even in the short time that, we've been here, but, um, really looking forward to this conversation to get to explain a little bit more about what happens behind the scenes, behind the curtain, because that's a feedback that we get a lot is that people don't really know what cyber insurance carriers care about. And happy to shed some light there.
Well, perfect. Well, kind of give us let's potentially start with you. What are the types of basic controls that a cyber insurer looks for um, when trying to underwrite a client?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to depend really on the revenue side because cyber in general is rated and how we get pricing for cyber insurance. The two primary rating factors, the things that we use to price cyber insurance, are going to be um, are going to be industry class and then also revenue. Um, and kind of before I even get into that, it probably makes sense to just explain what cyber insurance is because it's you can call pretty much anything cyber insurance. There's no rules to what can and cannot be called cyber insurance. When I talk about cyber insurance, I talk about um, a standalone product, a standalone insurance product. It's not an add-on to something that some other insurance product that you might have, like a general liability or a business owner's policy. It's not like a data breach add-on. It's not a cyber warranty that are getting pretty popular these days. Um, when I talk about cyber insurance, I mean a true insurance policy specifically for cyber that covers both first party expense and third party liability. Additionally, crime as another part of that too. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about cyber. Getting back into controls, um, like I said, cyber insurance pricing is going to depend heavily based on what your industry is and what your revenue is. And that's kind of the way that insurance has been rated throughout decades, right? Um, but I can kind of focus on the things that change no matter what your industry or revenue is. And that's going to be first and foremost MFA. And I'll even break that down further. Kind of like the primary control that cyber insurance carriers are going to care about, going to be MFA on remote access. So if you have remote access, do you have MFA? Email, so MFA for email, and then MFA for privileged accounts. So those are the kind of the number one thing that cyber insurance carriers are going to care about. Next is going to be your backup solution. So describing what that looks like. Are they air gapped? Are they encrypted, immutable? Um, just kind of describing what those backups look like. Then one that's becoming very popular in the last couple of years, some sort of detection and response tooling, EDR, MDR. You're going to start seeing in the next couple of years, probably. It's really starting to pick up. Cyber insurance carriers are starting to offer their own MDR tools to their policyholders. It's becoming more and more of a requirement to have some sort of solution there. And then also I guess the last kind of control that kind of doesn't really change depending on what your industry or revenue is, would be related to email security. So a lot of the times they're asking if you have a secure email gateway, and then it's just your email security configured correctly. So those would be kind of the lowest hanging fruit for the things that the cyber insurance carriers care about. And then there's other things that aren't always asked or have a really meaningful impact, but usually aren't asked by cyber insurance carriers.
So, Joe, as a broker, you're probably the first one to talk to customers or to talk to managed service providers about how their controls are configured and trying to gather that information. What are some of the trends that you're seeing as you're doing this?
Yeah, the adoption of MFA has become more mainstream. I'm still seeing smaller companies that don't have MFA, and I'm pretty much telling them to re re look at that and before I turn it into the insurance company because insurance companies are quoting without MFA, but they'll put callback restrictions, meaning that if you don't call someone before doing a funds transfer, it's not going to be covered. And other exclusions and restrictions on your policy. They may sublimit your cybercrime to 50,000 instead of giving you the full 250,000. So I try to pre underwrite the insurance application when I'm talking to companies, and then
Mhm.
ask them to try to hook them up with a company like Duo or have them talk to their MSP in order to get on board with that MFA program, because as you've seen in a lot of these recent breaches, Everbridge, Change Healthcare, you know, pretty much every other breach that we see in the news, it's not some like crazy skilled hacker that, you know, is wearing like a hoodie or anything like that. It's these guys that are looking for the low hanging fruit, and these large companies still don't have MFA like dialed into all their services and all their remote desktops. So it's the big guys and the small guys that are failing to adopt MFA.
And when you talk about enabling MFA, are you talking about for all accounts? Are you talking about just for the administrative accounts? How fine grained are we getting here when we're asking for MFA to be enabled?
At least the critical systems and email. Those are those are the main ones. So if it's a business critical system that has business data with personal identifiable information in it,
Mhm.
then those need to be have MFA. And of course, anything with remote access, and of course your email, because business email compromise is huge right now. So
Okay.
those three things. I mean, ideally on every application, but if you're hitting the remote desktops, the critical business systems, and the email, then you're fine by 90% of the insurance companies.
Okay. And doing this underwriting process, what sort of evidence do you have to gather so that when Abe or other insurance companies get the application, they feel comfortable that what you say is true?
Right. So the application has to be attested to by the uh, company. So I preface that with the company that if they're not doing something and something happens due to something they said they had on the application, then it could be a denied claim. They could what we call rescind the policy, or make the policy invalid because you lied on a insurance application. That's like
Mhm.
the worst case scenario. What I usually tell customers is that they should use their insurance fill in the blank instead of a multiple choice exam.
Mhm.
So, meaning if it's asking yes or no, you may say yes, but, or no, but, and fill in an explanation there. So you're saying, yes, I have MFA. And then you can list the systems that you're using MFA on, or list the systems you're not using MFA on. And then you're being forthcoming with the insurance company, and everybody knows like what you're doing, and they can either ignore that and go ahead with giving you the policy, and that's fine, or they can ask you to add MFA for those other systems before starting the coverage.
Okay. Okay. Um, Abe, on your end, you mentioned uh, backups, immutable storage, things like this. Um, from an insurance perspective, is this kind of to make sure that if they did get ransomware, that they have a solid solution in place that they can start to recover and it makes them more resilient?
Yeah, exactly. So the most expensive losses that we see are the ransomware and then business interruption. So the quicker that they're able to recover and get back to operating normally, the less that the insurance carrier has to pay out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And from a backup perspective, a lot of smaller companies might be using a managed service provider or cloud services. How do you go through and assess that they're really backing up or that they have the backups that they need to be resilient?
Yeah, there's not. I would say that the industry as a whole is really trying to figure out that validation piece. At this point, we're kind of relying on people to answer the application questions accurately. Um, and there's not a very good precedent of insurance carriers being able to rescind policies. They usually have to pay out, regardless of whether or not there was some sort of misrepresentation on the application. So there's been a big push recently to start to use telematics in the underwriting process
Hmm.
to be able to verify. But even still, that's a you know, most of the time that's a point in time snapshot of the way
Mhm.
that things might be configured. Um, so there's no perfect answer there yet. Um, but the industry is trying to catch up to figure out the best way to verify that information.
I love that you mentioned that it's a point in time assessment of their backups. Joe, as you're helping MSSPs with ensuring that they have these backups in place, how do you help them solve this problem?
Good question. So the MSPs and the MSSPs, hopefully they've done an audit of their client and knows if they have it or not. It's best when the MSP manages that service, the backup service,
Mhm.
and because they're very instrumental in incident response or working with the incident response team if something were to happen. If the company has backups in house, it's good for the MSP to also have backups. It just kind of has when you have duplicate backups, more backups. You have one in a safe at home. You have one in the cloud. You have one hopefully not on your server, but you know, air gapped or immutable, right? You don't want the backup on your server, and then that gets encrypted too. I mean, that happens a lot actually. So and it's kind of funny for us, but it's something that people just don't think about. They're like, oh yeah, my stuff's backed up. I know I do Windows backup like once a day, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And I would just add from my experience, ensure that you test your backups. So work with your managed service providers to ensure that your business critical systems are backed up, but also work on the restoration. So talking about restoration, I know Joe and Abe, both of you mentioned using XDR or some sort of managed detection and response service. Um, Abe, you even mentioned that some insurance companies are providing that. Uh, how do we work with MSPs to really ensure that they have the type of managed detection and response service that enables the clients to be resilient? Either one of you.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I don't know if I have the technical chops to be able to be that person that makes those kind of decisions on what is good and what's not.
Mhm.
Um, but I think just more generally speaking, um, I feel like there probably needs to just be more conversations between the industries, the cyber insurance industry and cybersecurity industry, to be able to understand which solutions provide the most value so that, MSPs and cyber insurance carriers and whoever is having those conversations with the end user, the companies that are purchasing these solutions, so they can be able to have those recommendations handy. Um,
Yeah, I would go on that because there's a lot of different services, which kind of causes some confusion when we're doing insurance applications because there's
Mhm.
EDR, which is just the software. So the company may put, yeah, I have CrowdStrike, but they're not going the extra step and getting the managed service. And then is there a 24/7 SOC? So those are different levels of security that if you can communicate that to the insurance company, you can get better terms as far as like pricing and coverages go. Um, Rather than just saying, "Oh yeah, I have CrowdStrike." What does that mean? Is that just
Mhm.
the software, or you managing it in house from 9 to 5? Um, so that's definitely something that we try to um, go into and ask companies and their MSPs to get clarification on that.
yeah, like if someone says that they have next gen AV and we ask them and they say they have Norton 2000, we need to start asking what they have in place.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Joe, does it matter that the managed service provider that they have is working with that insurance company or might be on a list that those insurance companies have validated as suppliers that they work with to help underwrite the policy?
Absolutely. So that's a good transition into the the program that um, Abe and I are working with right now, it's basically a way that MSPs can um, accelerate underwriting for their clients because they're already pre-vetted by the insurance company.
Mhm.
The five things that we talked about: MFA, backup, uh, EDR, MDR, um, email security, those are already built into their stack of technology for their so then the insurance company can say, okay, you work with ABC MSP, you're a preferred client of them, so you're a preferred client of us. We're going to run you through underwriting without having to do all the do this huge application. Maybe your application's, half a page instead of 3 pages. And then you're getting a discounted rate based on um, having that assurance from the MSP to the insurance company that you're actually doing all those things. Because, like we said before, it's like, what's on the application? There's a lot of confusion. But if it's a MSP talking to the insurance company and they both know what they're doing, then the insurance company can run that through their algorithm to give them preferred pricing.
And what do MSPs need to do in order to try to take advantage of this program?
The easy way to do it would just be to email me or Abe. We can give you some more information about it. Joe at c3insurance.com is my email, and we can take you through the process. It involves meeting with the insurance company, and then they vet you and what you guys are doing for your customers, and then they create a custom program for you, so you can give an exclusive discount to your customers.
Oh, that sounds really interesting. Abe, from your perspective, as MSPs are doing this, what, how does that impact the risk decisions for insurance companies to have MSPs that are pre-signed up on this program?
Yeah, I think historically there's been some level of friction between insurance companies and MSPs. And what I love about this concept is that instead of, there being some friction between the MSP and the insurance company, there's really an integration between the two. And so there's multiple levels to it. There's one aspect of this is it's that first step towards, true telematics where we're we're saying that the insurance company wants to get data from the MSP, from the source of truth, to be able to verify that controls are in place. Um, for the insurance company, they're getting better risks because the clients of these MSPs are better risks than what's typically out there. And then for the MSP, they get an incredible, value add to their clients that they wouldn't have otherwise, by making the process easier and being able to offer that exclusive discount to their customers for a insurance product that most of them are purchasing anyways.
And Joe, as you talk to potential customers, like, does it make them that much more comfortable going through the insurance process that their MSPs already pre-vetted or their MSPs helping them get the best rates possible?
Absolutely. I mean, the my best customers come from MSPs because I can do what this program is doing, but just manually by talking to them. So, I'm already doing that in a sense, but this kind of automates it and builds in a system to do it. I want to just talk about like the trends that are happening right now in cyber insurance and cybersecurity. The larger cybersecurity companies are creating programs like this already on the side with um, insurance companies. So if you're a smaller MSP and you want to compete with these larger companies that are offering cyber insurance discounts to their customers, then this is a great program for you because you can compete on an equal level to them. And, in a sense, get ahead of this trend because it's just starting.
I love it. I love it. So I'm gonna make sure I add all the contact details in the show notes for those that are catching it after the fact. Joe, Abe, I want to thank you both for coming on and for sharing your knowledge. Any final thoughts before we go, Joe?
No, no, I don't have anything. Just be careful what you click on.
Abe, any final thoughts from you?
I just want to appreciate you, appreciate the community, and thanks for having us
Absolutely.
on.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you all for joining another episode for understanding security controls for cyber insurance and working with your MSSP to get those best discounts. We'll connect you with Joe and Abe in the future if you need more information, or you can reach out to me. I'll happy to make introductions for you. Thank you all and have a great day.
I guess.